I am really excited to have panelists from all stakeholders in our community here that I think can help us begin a positive discussion in the creation of a framework that can make an appreciable difference in Tuscaloosa. I know one of the disturbing things that I see every single day is the number of people in our community that are touched in a bad way by narcotics in one form or fashion. In fact, sometimes when you look at it, it appears overwhelming. And the job that our West Alabama Narcotics Group does is amazing with the resources that they have. So Wayne, I'm going to ask you to come on up. Wayne Robertson, who heads our West Alabama Narcotics Unit, does an amazing job. And as Wayne's coming forward, I think one point for those that are not in law enforcement that some of you may not be aware, but we do a lot of good things collaboratively in Tuscaloosa County. One of them is the West Alabama Narcotics Unit. Our homicide unit is a collaboration of law enforcement. Our jail is a metro jail, which is run by the sheriff's office but funded by the entities. So we have a long history of collaboration, and the West Alabama Narcotics Unit is a shining example of that. So Wayne, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mayor, Chief, I appreciate y'all inviting me to this. Anytime I get a chance to come and talk about West Alabama Narcotics Task Force, I'm just overwhelmed. Anybody know me? I've been doing this job for 22 years. I've worked narcotics approximately 18 years. I'm very passionate about it. I'll start off by asking y'all a question. I'm gonna come back to it later. Do anybody in here think that I could buy drugs in Tuscaloosa County? I've lived here my whole life. I'm the commander of West Alabama Narcotics, and this is gonna come back to show y'all, why I believe in some things strongly as I do. But on that same note, I do kind of believe what most of you said here. I don't think everybody should go to jail, or go to prison for drugs, but I do think people need to pay for their mistakes. I really do think they believe they should pay for their mistakes. To echo what Chief Anderson said earlier, I do think it's easier to raise a child than to fix a broken man or woman. That's been proven there. If everybody would, families would step up to the plate and raise their child earlier, then we wouldn't be having a lot of these discussions that we're having today. So I think it's kind of hard to fix a broken man or woman. I do believe in this also. We execute over 200 search warrants a year approximately. When a police officer put our life on the line, and every time I go through a door, I don't know what's on the other side of it. I may get a crack rock that may not mean much to anybody else, but you need to remember that a police officer put his life on the line to do that. And he did that for his community, country, state, everything. He may not go back home to his family that night. And it disturbs me sometimes to see how we play with these things and say that it's not a big deal. Certain things, hey, it was just marijuana. It was just a crack rock. But it was somebody that kicked in a door. It was somebody that did a lot of work to get that crack rock. So we need to remember that when we're talking about these types of things. Also, I can remember when I first started in law enforcement, I'm not going to call any names, Lynn's gone now, but I had a district attorney tell me one time about the law. It was, Judge England may correct me if I'm wrong, I thought it was if you sold within 3 miles of a school, it was mandatory prison time. I had a district attorney tell me one time he didn't think that law was fair. Because guess what, if you sold drugs anywhere in the city of Tuscaloosa, it was within 3 miles of a school. It was nowhere you could sell drugs in the city of Tuscaloosa and it wouldn't be within 3 miles of a school. That could have been a reason why our prisons are overcrowded. Finally, another thing I'd like to talk to you about is marijuana. I'm gonna touch on these things. I am gonna get to my PowerPoint, y'all, but I want to make some of these things clear. Marijuana, everybody says, hey, marijuana ought to be legal. West Alabama Narcotics, nobody in my unit thinks that it ought to be legal. I'll put it like this. I've never went to a heroin overdose, been to quite a few of them, where I have not seen the use or found marijuana. Never been to a heroin overdose, whether it was death or they was just transported to DCH, where we didn't search the place and we found no use of marijuana. So ask yourself, should it be legal? Is it a gateway drug? I think so. I also want to tell you something about West Alabama Narcotics Squad. Besides the salaries, we are totally self-sufficient. Pretty much totally self-sufficient. We get a small grant every year that pays a very small part of salaries, but we live off of illegal money that's made through drug sales, whether it be assets, and I'm gonna cover some of that in here in my PowerPoint presentation. But we are an aggressive unit. I think we have done such a great job throughout the years. We've pushed a lot of our drugs out of the county, but they still come back in the county. But a lot of our drug dealers now, we've seen that they've gone on to Greene County and other counties right now. We're seeing a lot of our drugs being kept, but just because of our aggressive approach to drugs in this county. That's a little bit about West Alabama Narcotics, when it was founded in 1972, which was a great idea. It was formed up of Tuscaloosa Police Department, Chief Steve Anderson. This is on my board of directors. Chief Tim Sumlin, he's on the board of directors. Gerald Burton with Northport Police Department, the chief, he's on the board. Lynn Head, she's on the board of directors, and also Sheriff Ron Abernathy, who's not here today, but he's on the board. I have a great board of directors, which really helps us out a lot. Whoever decided to start this task force was great. And if anybody in here knows what a task force is, a task force, most time when you think of a task force, you think of it as this people, they're lacking resources over here, so let's try to put them all together and, you know, become stronger. And that's true. That's what you want to do when you're forming a task force. But with narcotics, because of it, it's really the same drugs that are in Northport ends up in Tuscaloosa, the city of Tuscaloosa. And you got to remember that West Alabama Narcotics, we don't only work the city of Tuscaloosa. It keeps us very busy, but this thing was formed because of the drugs overlapping into other jurisdictions, and it gives us the ability to go into other jurisdictions. So that's a lot of what our task force does, and that's pretty much why it was formed. Our task force currently, I talked about our board of directors. I'm the commander. I have a lieutenant. I run 2 shifts right now. I have a day shift sergeant and an evening shift sergeant. I have an administrative assistant, and we usually have 5 to 6 agents working each one of those shifts. The mission of our task force is to reduce the availability of drugs in Tuscaloosa County. We are having a hard time with the parcel services now. That seems to be the way the drugs are getting in Tuscaloosa County. I would say over half of our drugs that are getting in Tuscaloosa County right now are coming through the mail system. And Chief Anderson is very aware of that. Whether it be UPS, whether it be the U.S. Postal Services, whether it be FedEx, through some type of postal service, parcel service, that's where our drugs are getting in. I know you say, well, why can't you stop it? You got to think about these people, FedEx, UPS, these are privately owned businesses. They don't want to, they want people to send stuff. They make money. So, but we have, that is one of our big ways that our drugs are getting in our county. We're still getting it in. It's coming in on trucks, cars, and other ways we're getting it. You know, we talked about pills and other things and how to get it. We talked about veterans selling their medication and things of that nature. But that is one of our missions. To disrupt drug trafficking by enforcing the federal, state, and local laws. One of the best laws I think was just passed was the one on spice. Everybody heard about spice. I will say this about spice. When we got out and started informing the public on spice, before that, and Chief will remind you, we was having overdoses every day. We even had several deaths. So I do believe informing the public and letting them know what's going on does work. It goes a long way, but he signed a law, a bill that pretty much said if you sell anything that even imitates or think that it's some type of synthetic drug or in that capacity, hey, you're breaking the law. You're selling a synthetic drug. So, but it's a real tough law, and it's giving us a lot of leeway to make a lot of arrests. So, arrest and prosecute drug violators and seize their drug assets. We go back to drug assets. I think last year we seized over $1.1 million in 2014 in cash and vehicles and drug assets. But all that money, y'all got to remember, all that money, we just don't. That money, we have to buy vehicles. Everybody know how expensive they are. We have to buy drugs. And that's another thing about that. We have to, when I started in this business, you can go buy an ounce of marijuana for like $60. Right now, an ounce of marijuana is costing around $260 to $300. So anytime that you got that kind of money around, you know, you're subject to robberies, burglaries, and everything like that, because there's a lot of cash being done. That's why everybody talk about marijuana as a harmless drug. It may be harmless, maybe somebody may say in smoking it, I don't believe that either, but you got to think about it. Anytime you got cash, big flow of cash, things like that in the area, you're going to start having people trying to rob each other for it, to burglarize.
Captain, why the increase in marijuana? Why such a substantial increase in the street value?
I think the states that have legalized it, most of the marijuana that comes from across the border, it's what we call it dirt weed. The kids, the potency, the stuff that is grown in Oregon, Seattle, out in the California area, you know, they have these big warehouses and stuff where they can control it, and the THC level is a lot higher. Nobody cares much for smoking the weed comes across the border now. It's just, it comes in bales. Everybody now, they got all these different names for it, but it's a more, the THC. Also, you know, they've gotten away from just marijuana, just smoking it. You know, it's edibles now, things like that. And what happened is the states that have legalized it, we're seeing a lot of it shipped from those states into our city and into the state. All of this accomplishing through cooperative efforts of multiple agencies and working together. Like I said again, West Alabama Narcotics, it's only right now I currently have 11 agents. Tuscaloosa County is a huge, huge area. We went to work yesterday. We went and checked a complaint in Buell, and then we had to go check a complaint. We checked 2 in Buell and checked 2 in McCalla, and we got back to the office at 4 o'clock. They was very productive. We seized about 3 or 4 stolen cars and made some arrests and everything, but that just goes to show you what a big area that we have to cover every day when dealing with this. How do we obtain information? Informants. Remember what I just said a while ago when I told you I can't go buy drugs, and what's the importance of this? The importance of prosecution and what we have seen hurt us, we have to use, everybody's going to say, why don't you use police officers to do it? First of all, I can't do it. It's hard to bring somebody from another area, state, or county. If you didn't grow up with these people, you can't go buy from them. They don't know you, they're not just going to sell to you. The only thing that makes people do this is the fear of possibly going to jail, losing their family, or us paying them. For years, you know, a guy like that, you know, we may arrest him and he may go, you know, he may be in community correction, say, and we're like, hey, so everybody say, why don't you bust a big drug dealer? We don't have wiretaps in Alabama. Drug dealers have gotten smarter over the years. We don't have wiretaps. So the only thing, and I know it sounds bad, but the only thing could make this guy cooperate is some type of fear of him losing something. And that's the harsh reality of my job. And people say, oh, that you shouldn't, that ain't the way you're supposed to be done. You know, you need to try to help him. You need to try to do something. You need to really try to help him. But the only way that I can reach the top is through people like this. When you start a drug investigation, y'all, from any level, all the schools I've been to, you must start at the ground level. What they mean by the ground level, you go out on the street and you get the users. What you do is you try to get the users to get to the middleman. Then you try to get the middleman to get to the big man. But if those people there, people wonder why did you have 3,000 arrests last year? You know why we had 3,000 arrests? Because everybody told us they wasn't going to work for us. You know why they told us they weren't going to work for us? Because they was going to go do 8 months in jail or DOC and they was going to let them out. So that's how you end up with 3,000 arrests. I look at an arrest one time when I first took over several years ago, and I said, how could you make 3,000 arrests and only have 5 informants? I told my unit that. We had a long talk. How could you make 3,000 arrests and only have 5 informants? You know why people ain't cooperating? No fear, no consequences. And I want y'all to realize I'm speaking from a law enforcement standpoint. Chief Anderson always tell me, and I live by this today, he told me to stay in my lane. Stay in my lane. And my lane is to stop the availability of drugs coming in this community. And that's what I do. I can't worry about what Judge England's going to do to them. I can't worry about what Ms. Head is going to do to them. All I can do is try to stop drugs from coming into our county. And that's what I do. And Chief knows that's exactly what I do every day. I cannot control what happens after that. That's why our arrests, and I feel bad sometimes because I think sometimes we must put the biggest load on the district attorney's office. I don't know, we have to because of the number of felony arrests that we make. But we do. But the only thing we have to make this guy right here do anything is he's got to fear maybe leaving his family or maybe going to prison. I don't know. If he chooses to help us, he chooses to walk free and go back to his family. And we do have a full-time guy who handles pharmacy prescriptions. Pills are one of our biggest problems. We're connected with all the pharmacies here. If somebody's out forging prescriptions, they got a way where they can fax in, give us a description of it, and it'll kind of send it out to all other pharmacies throughout the county and tell them, hey, be on the lookout for a white female by such and such name. She's driving a green car. So if they show up at that pharmacy and she's forging prescriptions, that seems to work real well. We also got a thing called Leads on Labs, and where we monitor the purchase of pseudoephedrine and things of that nature, which helps to not. We have seen a big decrease in labs over the years. Mostly what we see is the shake and bake, pretty much 2-liter bottle and a bunch of chemicals in it, and that's pretty much what we run into. But we have seen a big decrease in that. We're starting to see most of our methamphetamine is coming from Atlanta area. And a lot of it have now moved to the Birmingham area, but most of our methamphetamine, which is ice, and most of them go into a more pure form called ice. Citizens' complaints. If that phone rings, a lot of complaints come through it, whether it be from a mad wife or girlfriend. If a mad wife or girlfriend calls, you better go do something then, because it's usually a pretty good complaint. If they tell you that someday by my boyfriend, it's usually a pretty good complaint. We receive it from our dispatchers. We have complaints come in through their 911 system. The objectives of the task force are to utilize intelligence and the department resources to direct the unit's response to successful investigate and arrest and prosecute illegal drug offenders. To educate, inform, and train the public and area of law enforcement agencies on drug awareness, prevention with information, education, and presentation. Anytime you call our office and ask us to come and do a presentation, I just done one at Elizabeth Baptist Church yesterday. Was it yesterday? Maybe a day or two ago. We go do a bunch of them. We do a lot of them. So anytime you ask us, we do try to get out. We go to the schools. We got Red Ribbon Week we go to. We go to all type of functions, neighborhood functions, and we do get around and try to get it. We got pamphlets. If you need any pamphlets or anything, you're putting on any type of program, we have all the stuff. We get out and talk. The guys, we love going out doing that. So we do a lot of making people aware of what's going on. You'll see we go out to the schools and talk. We go out to the organizational events and we talk to them about drugs and what they could do to destroy them, and also professional organizations. We also work with them, the banks, the DCH, military, churches. You brought that up earlier. We speak at a lot of churches a lot. The churches love the calls to come out and speak a lot. Speak at a lot of those a year. Enforcement operations. All complaints of illegal drug activity are investigated through Tuscaloosa County. Remember I told you we go out and we do all the complaints. We investigate every complaint. Being compromised by multiple agencies, the task force has jurisdictional authority throughout municipalities, university, college campuses, and the county. Being a task force, that does give us the ability to get out through the county. Remember I talked about earlier where drugs overlap in the different jurisdictions, and that works real well for us, by everybody cooperating. Cases may begin within one jurisdiction and overlap into another. We've had them overlap into a whole entire another state. We've went places, we help everybody. We've been to Oregon, we've been to Atlanta, we've been all over the place where investigations have started here and we ended up somewhere else. Search warrants. Search warrant is one of our biggest tools that we use. The judge is able to tell you, Judge England, Judge Allman, we write a lot of search warrants a year and we execute a lot of them a year. They obtain through all different types of ways. We have not a lot of them, but we have a lot of informants give us a lot of information. They obtain by purchasing drugs from the residents and things of that nature. But most of our assets and things are seized through search warrants. Buy walks is pretty much when informants come over. And these are very costly, something that you have to think about. Remember I talked about you spending $260 for an ounce? That's why asset forfeiture is so important to this unit. That money that we seize, we have to take that money back out and we have to purchase drugs with it. So we may do that 2 or 3 times. We may go buy from one person 2 or 3 times and we can end up spending $700 to $1,000, not counting paying the informant and the time, equipment, overtime, and that thing. So buy walks, they are very costly. That's why that asset seizure is so important. Buy bus, those things are very dangerous. They never go the way they should go. Buy bus is pretty much when we come in, we decide the investigation is over as far as we can go. The CI goes up, or the undercover makes the deal. We come in and try to take them into custody right there. But those are very dangerous. We try to stay away from a lot of those. We like to kind of go pick them up at their house. Undercover operations, I'm not a big fan of it. Undercover operations, what we mean there, that's when you actually take a police officer and he goes undercover. It's really dangerous bringing a police officer in who hasn't grew up with people and then you send him to try to buy drugs and do things. We've had some that have been beaten up before and things of that nature there. But we really don't run too many undercover operations with officers. We do run them with informants a lot. Last year's statistics, like I told you, there's a lot. Last year we made 3,100 cases, over 3,100 cases on over 1,600 defendants. The average age was 30 years old. The youngest was 9 years old. The oldest was 69. Students, we arrested 225 students, 349, 89% of those were University of Alabama students that we arrested. The comparison during the years, just you can see how we've grown over the last 4 years there. You can see how the cases kept going up and up. When I took over the unit 3 to 4 years ago, I told Chief Anderson that I would like to drop that by 400 or 500. He's like, I don't know how you're going to do that, but I said, I wish we could. That would allow us to kind of concentrate on more bigger investigations and things. But as you can see, it just keeps rising. It keeps going up and up. But I noticed that the defendants did go down last year, but the number of cases still kind of went up. The charges actually went up. Drug comparisons, marijuana is still going to be our, it's broken down in grams, but that is a lot of pounds. Cocaine was up in 2014. We must have got a pretty big seizure. Marijuana is still the #1 drug here in Tuscaloosa County. It's not the most dangerous. We are a college town. Marijuana will always rule here, but it's not the most dangerous drug. The only thing about, when we talk about some of the drugs, the only thing about some of these drugs here, besides heroin, it takes a lot longer to catch up with you and you eventually die, you kind of deteriorate. The thing what made Spice so bad when it come out here lately over the last few years, you don't get a second chance most of the time. It was actually killing people like the first time. Some of these people you could show before and after pictures and you could see the deterioration of their body. But with Spice, it wasn't like that, and that what made it, well, we had to try to, inform the public then But heroin, we're starting to see a lot more heroin. It's coming out of Jefferson County. That's where most of our heroin. As far as the last time I checked, and I've talked to quite a few informants, they said we don't have any heroin dealers in Tuscaloosa. Everyone we talk to said, I go to Jefferson County, I go to Bessemer, get it, come back. And if everybody know how the heroin thing took off was the Oxycontin became so expensive and so hard to get, the opiates, what the kids decided to do is they said, well, hey, the availability of it, I can go get heroin. So they started running to Birmingham buying this heroin, and what was going on, the drug dealers in Birmingham hadn't figured out how to pretty much distribute this drug. DEA, after talking with them, they found some purity rates as high as 90-something% in this drug. I think this drug is supposed to be used, I wish nobody would use it, but it's supposed to be used around 20-something%. The average in Birmingham, when they find it, is around 50-something% purity rate. So that's why we're having such massive overdoses in the heroin. But most of our heroin is coming out of Jefferson County right now. Search warrants obtained and executed, as you'll see, 2014. See, I remember I told you we execute sometime over 200 and some search warrants a year. That is a lot of search warrants for 12, 13 agents to do. That is a lot of work to do. Felony warrants obtained, that's how many felonies warrants are being obtained. Drug programs given, as you can see in 2014, as you can see we've given over the years, we've started really getting out, informing the public on what's going on and doing a lot more programs. Weapons seized. In 2013, we seized 132. 2014, we only had 82, which I would have thought would have been a lot higher. We talk about, I remember I told you we was a college town. We talk about the colleges. These are the different students that we arrested during the year. It was 138 students in 2011. And you can see how she got them broken down to colors, who's the biggest ones. 2012, 218 students. 2013, 231 students. 2014, 225 students was arrested. Sentencing, I think Chief and everybody have already covered a lot of that, the alternative sentencing. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm kind of on the front line. I've had a guy once before, we called him to make a drug buy, and he said, hold up, I'm at community corrections, wait till I finish my class, and I'll come and sell to you. That's what he told us. Wait till I finish, and I'll be on as soon as I finish my class. That's why I'm not a fan. That's why I have such a big problem with some of that, with some of the things like that. The alternative sentencing. State and probation and parole, we work with them pretty well. I think they was telling us that they're just overwhelmed. They was managing, I think each probation officer, one was telling me they was managing 400 to 600 cases a piece. So, but they do work with us a lot. They call us all the time. They always going out doing home checks and finding drugs, and they're calling us. Well, all right, y'all. I think I may have tried to cover as much as I can.
Again, on behalf of our city council, I want to thank you for giving us 7 hours of your day. And I look forward to meeting with you again probably sometime in August and September and doing something great in the months and years ahead. Have a great day. Thank you.